Hey, this is Mark Watch MTC Media. So a lot of talk this morning. I know probably a lot of people aren't paying attention that LIV is ready to somewhat go bye-bye with PIF looking into kind of divesting out of the idea. I don't know exactly what that's going to look like. I don't know if anyone knows exactly what it looks like. What is the transition plan? Is it immediate? Is it over a series of years? What happens to the existing contracts, so on and so forth? So there's a lot of things to be answered. But what LIV Golf has become is the modern day USFL. A competitor that probably was needed, a competitor that helped the working side of it, the labor side of it, and all entities, because we can't deny that the PGA was kind of motivated to start modernizing some of their policies because of LIV Golf. But ultimately, they both failed for the same reason. Now, I'm not going to be a revisionist because I still believe in what I said when all of this first happened, which was the PGA Tour needs a competitor. I'm not sure if it looks like what LIV Golf is, but they need a competitor. And I still believe that. And I don't think that anything that's happened with LIV Golf has made me change that opinion. It might not have been the right format. It might not have been the right entity. But you cannot deny that the PGA players aren't better off because of the existence of LIV. Now, how does it resemble the USFL outside of the obvious? Well, it's because of what the ultimate plan was. Now, the USFL's ultimate plan was to be a competitor to the NFL. That by taking up that summer space, which was an open space, even though back then baseball was more popular in this country, so the summer isn't viewed as the dead space that it is viewed today. But it was going to compete with the NFL. And it needed to have a long-term strategy outside of litigation in order to do that. But this is where the USFL was the predecessor to LIV. With the USFL, that all changed with one owner in New Jersey who was so upset that the NFL would not allow him into their ownership club and were never going to allow him into their ownership club, that he thought by, get this, raising prices on stars, where the whole league you just buy up the best college players so they never go to the NFL. And then you take the NFL players, and I know this sounds weird in today's NFL, but the NFL players who are in holdouts or potential contract disputes, back when players really would sit and hold out, they would buy them up by basically paying above market value. And that this puts so much pressure on the NFL. And that would not mean that they would be a competitor to the NFL. That would mean it will force a merger with the NFL, which is different from being a competitor. So now it switched from being a competitor to forcing a merger. LIV was created for the express purpose of forcing a merger. Its existence was never about being a true competitor. It was about forcing a merger so this entity could get into a space that otherwise it was not going to be able to get into. So it's same and different. With the USFL, it was primarily one individual who had that desire, and here it was this one entity that had the desire. But in both cases, they're about to fall to the same ending. Whereas after a while, you say, the juice isn't worth the squeeze. In the USFL's case, the owners should say, we're broke. In the LIV's case, it's not the point that they're broke, but they are done investing at the rate that they were investing without getting the payoff that they wanted, which wasn't necessarily profiting, which wasn't necessarily being a competitor, but was to force a merger. And now I think they're to the point that says we're not going to be able to get to that point. And this is some things that Americans in particular have a hard time understanding. And this is where these two have the same ending, but they're different in this sense. The NFL is a football sport. American football is a football sport. Trying to get a competitor for an American sport that can compete with the NFL in our current landscape is pretty much zero. You're not going to get it. Golf is a global sport. So is there a chance, again, for something to happen where you can have true competition? Absolutely. It might look like LIV. Now, with the LIV failing, maybe you'll have people say, hey, look, man, I'm going to stay away from that because them guys had more money than God, and even they didn't succeed. That very well could happen. But when you're dealing with global sports, it's a little bit different than when you're dealing with an American sport. Because like I said, it's at this point, our current landscape, it is truly darn near impossible. You never want to say impossible, but it's darn near impossible to come up with some sort of entity in such a small market globally, relatively speaking, as America to really truly compete with the NFL and be a true competitor. Golf, like I said, we'll see if anyone wants to try again. It might be 5 years down the road. It might be 10 years down the road, but we'll see. But LIV dying the USFL death is probably something that I guess I could say I didn't necessarily see coming this fast. Because I didn't necessarily feel like the right people that flipped over to LIV would jump off this fast. And they can't jump off fast enough. Whether it's Koepka or, anyone else over there now, the Dustin Johnsons of the world who were pretty much finished over here anyway as a true competitor, that's different. You're Harold Varner III, that's different. But when you have those guys coming in, I know John Rahm is a different situation because his contract ends, I think, in 27. And I know DeChambeau, I think his contract ends in 26. So that will be this year. But everyone was jumping off the train. And the USFL, this always makes me think back to the USFL. But as a kid, I actually did like that you could make one business mistake that impacts the long-term strategy so much that it ends up killing you. And for LIV Golf, it was, we're going to overpay, force a merger, and then circumstances changed and the PGA figured out a way of just pushing back the calendar until LIV felt like it wasn't worth it anymore. In the USFL's case, it was winning a court case that gave you, $3 damages, I think it's what it is. It's an antitrust violation, $1 damage, and it's triplicate. So it ended up being $3. And then at that point, the owner of the New Jersey General said, well, this isn't worth it to me. And I think the famous quote had him call his fellow investors small potatoes. So again, 2026, it looks like LIV is going to die the death of the USFL. And anytime I have a chance to reminisce about the USFL, I do. But again, don't get it twisted. I'm not changing what I said years ago. PGA needs a competitor. I'm not sure if LIV if it looks like what LIV was, because LIV never wanted to be a competitor. It wanted a merger. Smarks Wash MTC Media.